Welcome to the Arcfluence podcast, where we talk about how design impacts the way we live, work, and invest. Today is episode 3, and we have a special guest, Sarah Karakaian, who actually happens to be my wife.
Yeah, I was going to say she's a very special guest.
Add a few more varies there, Nick.
You got to throw in the very, Nick. Very special.
All right, so today we are going to talk about short-term rentals and how design impacts short-term rentals. Our very special guest today is Sarah Karakaian, who I happen to know. Sarah, I've actually been a big fan of yours for about 20 years, and I even asked you to marry me.
You did.
Yeah. Why don't you tell us a little about yourself, your business, and what you're doing now?
Yeah. So my name is Sarah Karakaian, and along with my husband, back in 2000, I hope these years wrong, like 12, we purchased a home in Astoria, Queens. And I used to be an actress at the time in New York, and I had no problem ever finding fellow actors who needed a temporary place to stay. So we somehow bought this home with a 3% FHA down payment, and the thought of renovating the basement and leasing it out to all of my actor friends whenever they would need some place to stay. But around the same time, a little app called Airbnb was becoming kind of popular in bigger cities, like New York City. And a friend of mine who's from Australia had been using it and said it was awesome. Like, people would travel to New York, need a place to stay. And he had been using it to offset his rent, like his entire rent. And I was like, wait a minute, that's insane. I worked in hotels and restaurants. I understood hospitality and catering to guests. So I asked Nick, I'll never forget, Nick, you were, of course, watching some sort of sci-fi on the television. And
100%.
I sat down on a sofa, like the arm of a sofa, and I was like, what if we tried this app where people from all over the world could book our basement? We had just renovated it to stay with us. And Nick was like, absolutely not. Are we going to have strangers in our house?
The thought of having strangers coming into my house with my permission was ridiculous.
Especially because the door that separated the little like ensuite.
It was an interior door.
Right. From our kitchen. It was an interior door. So we could lock it. But I mean, an axe murderer could easily knock it down.
Oh, an axe murderer could easily just knock that down. No problem.
So it took me some convincing, but obviously everyone listening can guess that I eventually wore him down. And not only did that little, it was a bedroom with a full bathroom, but there was no kitchen. So we just had like a refrigerator, a little mini fridge, a microwave, a coffee station. And the only way to get water was from the bathroom sink. And it had its own entrance, though, from the outside. So we put a lockbox on the door. And
well, before you spill the beans about the numbers and what it actually did for us, we have Nino and Paul here again with us. And I just want to get your guys' opinion on what's your you've been around, you've heard about Airbnb over the last decade, right? But like, if you've never heard of something like this before and what would be your initial thought about having people stay with you?
I mean, when I first heard about it, it's similar reaction, right? Like, we're going to have some strangers come in, like, who knows, what kind of character they are, how they're going to behave when they're, right, like, staying at your house. They could be, psychopaths, or they could be great people. I mean, you just don't know what you're going to get, right? It's like a roll of the dice. So again, when I first heard of it, obviously, similar to you, like, really? Like, you want to invite people in and have them stay with us? Like, okay.
So I was sound of mind in my initial, okay.
Yeah,
good.
I mean, like,
very
I think,
much, very much. Yep.
All right, but what happened, Sarah?
So when we used to rent to our actor friends, they would maybe pay like $1,200, $1,300 a month for that little ensuite in the basement with their own entrance. And they thought it was a great deal. And it was great to offset our $3,200 a month mortgage. Well, once we leveraged the Airbnb app and I think we had guests say that we had a 3-night minimum. They pretty much only stayed on the weekends at first. It covered our entire mortgage, and we would cash flow a couple $100.
I couldn't believe it.
We were living for free in New York City. We were like, this is incredible.
That is really incredible, actually.
And months earlier, I was like, what are we going to do?
And plus, how much time did you spend in that house? Because your guys being busy too.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's not like, we have to endure these people, because you're also in a city roaming around.
Yeah.
While, the house is paid by itself.
Yeah.
Clever.
It was great. We took a chance and it worked out. And I think, Nick's trepidation with guests, and I want this obviously to stay focused on design, but we took some time making sure the guests who we allowed to come stay were, I don't like to use the word vetted, but well matched to our property.
Yeah, I mean, at first we definitely had conversations with
A
them
lot,
before they
yeah.
stayed,
Yes.
and most of them weren't from, they weren't local. They were traveling from all over the
Oh.
world, which was kind of exciting.
We accommodated, I think, like some 30 some countries in like the few years that we hosted in New York.
Can you a little bit explain that? I don't want to say quote like a vetting process, but how you filtering? I mean, we still have you have all kinds of people.
Right.
Lie.
Yeah, they still do.
So exactly. So can you a little bit explain that process, like for us that are not really into Airbnb, like how that process actually works? Is there any help on the software base, or you still have to do like an interview, or I know there is credit score. Is there like what kind of parameters you using to kind of vet these people?
Yeah, and a lot has changed in 12 years since we started. So, but back then there was I mean, even now it's not that robust, but back then Airbnb did have the guests had to go through a verification process just to prove they were who they said they were. And if you can imagine, the app was new. So it's not like today where like you have past hosts get reviews of those guests, like, hey, they were great, or hey, I would never run to these people again. So back then, no, they were just staying for a few days. So you're not going to have them go through a background check. Like that costs money. It takes time. Like you have to have a process for background checks where you store their information securely. Like it's a big deal. So really it's just kind of a gut feeling.
Trust.
Hence my apprehension.
Yeah. Well, and then I guess the other thing is too, like you said you were renting to people, right, at first, and then you switched over to the Airbnb platform.
Right.
What things did you do when you first switched over? Like, you furnished everything, right? Like, was that part of the process? And then did you upgrade the door to be a more robust door, or was it still just the flimsy whatever?
We were young and broke, so no, we didn't upgrade the door, but we were excellent designers, so the space was well decorated.
Yeah. Obviously, when we were hosting fellow actors, they would bring in their own furniture. But when we started hosting on Airbnb, yeah, we fully furnished it. That was the fun part. Figured out space. I mean, it wasn't a big space. Think New York City. We also are right under a highway, which for us, like, it wasn't a big deal because we're close to transportation in New York. That's like gold. But for people sleeping at night that aren't used to New York City sounds, like we had to figure out all of those things. Like, how do we make their night stay comfortable? Like you're paying for a
So you were
comfortable
getting
place to stay.
feedbacks from your friends and how to adjust this
Right.
space in order to prepare for the next step.
Right.
Which is why we always recommend you stay in your own Airbnb before you rent it out to strangers, or have your family stay there to give you feedback.
Right.
Okay, Sarah, so let's get into the design of things. I'd love to hear your thoughts on, how designing a Airbnb specifically how can we cash flow more by being thoughtful with design and decoration?
It's funny because I am around when Nick is working on your drawings, and he's been getting more and more renovations that are supposed to be tailored towards guests staying. And I look at it and I'm like, well, this is the biggest thing. Where is the housekeeping closet going to be? Like, where is all the magic that happens between guests? Where's that going to happen?
Behind the scene.
And people forget about it. I think, and it's great that they put the guest's experience first, but you can't have a guest experience that's great if that in-between period isn't maximized and isn't thought about, especially because this isn't a hotel where you have a whole space in the basement for laundry and maintenance. So you have to, if you have the luxury, if you're going to be engaging with design professionals to restructure a space so that it works for a short-term stay residential property, I want you to think about what happens between the guest stays. That way you save money on housekeeping because it's not this like uphill battle every time. The cleaners, all those people have what they need to do an efficient job so that they can set the stage for a great stay. So that's first and foremost, is thinking about that.
100%. And I also think in terms of scalability, if you're having more than one short-term rental, we need a place to store, products and supplies. And when you buy in bulk, you're going to save costs. So we got to think about the space for that as well.
Right.
So it's going to be like an enhanced janitor closet or something like that?
Right.
It's going to have like a shelves for old products, but still you're going to need a sink.
Right. And whether or not you want your guests to have access to that space. If you have the luxury of locking it off from guests being able to use it, that's great. Not because in the 12 years, we have some homes where we have the luxury of locking off a space, and there's some homes that we don't. In the homes that we don't, I've never had a guest like jack all the toilet paper, despite what you might think. Most people are actually pretty decent. But it is nice if you can like lock. No one wants to see the work behind the scenes. That's just for you and your team. So, but yes, like, and I know that some areas of the US, you don't have basements. And so then what do? A closet has to be robust enough to have the extra linens, the extra consumables. Maybe you're designing, like I know right now you're working with people who are designing multiple cabins at like a chunk
Resort.
of land, right? And so thinking about how so where is the maintenance person going to stay? What do you have an on-site person? So depending on how big or small your project is, to really think about the operations is going to help you, quote unquote, cash flow more.
I love it. What are your thoughts on that first moment, that wow factor for guests? Like, how would you have that conversation with your clients on like, we need to create that moment so that we get that Instagram, those reviews, and this this free advertising to make the property a home run?
And that's probably what people are most hung up on, right? Because it's like, it's the thing that they're going to post online. Like you said, nobody sees the maintenance closet, but it's very important. But I mean, like this wow factor, that Instagram moment, like that's probably what people get hung up on the most, I would imagine, right?
Well, there's, a whole hashtag now on the social channels, hashtag Airbnb. They're saying, we had this great run in 2020, 2021 with people not being able to stay at hotels because of COVID. So they were forced to stay at vacation rentals and short-term rentals. And so we were, literally taking baths in money. It was great. It was a great time. Well, now
I like that.
now that we're getting back to a more normalized travel economy where hotels are, another trusted source for stays, the people who got in it, who just wanted to take those baths in money, who didn't put the guest first, who didn't put that wow factor at the forefront, yes, you're going to see that you actually now have to work for the money that you're making. So Brian Chesky, the CEO of Airbnb, has recently come out to say that winning the trust of travelers is now their main focus, because people who stay in short-term rentals are saying in their reviews that when they go to check in, that is the quote-unquote moment of truth, because they don't know what they're going to get. Like what you're going to get when you stay at a Hilton or a Marriott or a Hyatt, or even like a Motel 6 or whatever.
Yeah,
you
Best
know
Western, whatever.
You know what you're going to get, and you're signing up for that. Like, this is going to be economic stay. I may or may not have a hair in my bed, but I'm okay with that because I know how much it's going to cost. Or I'm staying at this Hilton and I expect X, Y, and Z.
There's a brand recognition
Correct.
that's going on.
You have brand standards, and it is well known. Well, with Airbnb, the only brand standard they have right now is we don't know if what we see online is what we're going to get when we check in. So that check-in process, that moment of truth, that is your make or break. Because if you break it, if it's not what you promised online, if you don't have that wow moment that Paul just mentioned, they're already reviewing your space. And if you get a review that is anything less than 5-star, Airbnb as a platform, same with any other OTA, online travel agency like Vrbo, Booking.com, they're going to bury your listing. These people spend millions and millions of dollars in their marketing. So to perform well on their platforms is essential to your business. So that check-in process has to be incredible. So again, if you're working with a design professional, from the moment they turn off the road to go up to your property, can they see your address late at night? Can they find the door? Is it easy to check in? Do they get that wow factor right away where like they are so excited for their stay because you just punched them in the face with some amazing design element?
Do they have a parking space close by?
Yes. Like the entire experience of arriving is the most important part. And it has to be every single stay.
Because I believe, as you said, hotels, they're not just sitting there and it was like, oh, okay, there's this new guy on the block or Airbnb, we're just gonna still idle. They probably responded,
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, guys, we have to learn about these guys now, and now we have to put our A game to regain that trust back.
Hotels are using that to their advantage. Like, hey, traveler, we have brand standards. You know what you're going to get. And at Airbnb, there's all these different hosts who we don't know each other. We're not communicating what our brand standards are. And everyone's thought process of accommodation is different, which that's what makes Airbnb quite beautiful. But it's also the biggest detriment. So if you're listening right now and you're thinking about starting one, It's that entire first 10 minutes of arriving, from pulling off the road to parking your car to walking to the front door to opening the door to walking through that home. Like, that's it. Lights out if you miss that opportunity.
No, I inherently just have that conversation with our clients because it's our business. But what would that conversation look like with a designer who maybe isn't in the short-term rental space? Like, what would you suggest to people? What questions should they ask about to make that happen?
Right. I mean, to ask your like what a client should ask a design professional who maybe doesn't have experience designing short-term rentals or hospitality.
You consult with, your clients on how to make a space more accommodating and set that up. A lot of times it's after the fact. So I'm sure there's things you're like, well, I wish we would have talked to the architect about. But I mean, what does your conversations look like then?
Yeah, I would say everything that we just covered, right? Like, ask your design professional, whether it's interior designer or an architect or whomever, like, you get so excited and lost in what kind of couch you're going to get or what the pillows are going to look like or the tile selection. That's all important. But what about those things that really require a lot of planning? And Nick, you and me are setting up a short-term rental right now. And like, we were so busy with our full-time jobs that you and I, after doing this for 12 years, missed some opportunities.
The TV outlet is too high.
So it's like,
Well, and I think that's where having another pair of eyes on it, right? Like you mentioned earlier, as we were talking here, have a family member come out and kind of take a look at things, have a friend come out, take a look at things, stay yourself at the place, right? Because like you said, you're going through a list of all these different items that as you arrive, where do you park? How do you get from your car to the door and the door to,
So pretty much
et cetera,
can
et cetera,
develop
et cetera.
like your own standards and guidelines. You know what I'm saying? That you can, I hate to use the word checklist, but
yeah.
like it won't be bad to start like gathering all these thoughts on a paper, on a document, and just like, because
1000%.
we are as a human people, we all get attracted to the spot and forget all these boring stuff that are actually crucial.
Yes, very. And so I would say even like, yes, staying at your short-term rental once it's done and making sure like all the little, those little moments are working and actually sitting your laptop on that desk actually works. The sun isn't glaring on the laptop. That stuff, yes, those are easy changes. So I even say, quote unquote, stay at your short-term rental on the architectural drawings of your place. Like if we're designing it, like, okay, start at the street and on that piece of paper, walk down. Okay, can you see if it's 1 a.m, you've been traveling, your flight came in late. Can you see the address? Are there homes next to you? Will they know which one is yours? Do you need to put like some sort of name on it? Okay, now we're at the front door. What does that look like? Like you kind of have to act through it in your mind on the paper
100%.
and work with your design professional and ask those questions then.
Yeah, I mean, when you're walking in, do you have cover from the weather? Do we have like a back awning or a front awning? Like, where are they entering from also?
Yeah.
And then like, what does that experience look like? And then when you step through the door, like, what do you see exactly? Is getting accommodated, turning the lights on and all that comfortable? Does it make sense?
Right. If you're in a cold area, are there places and you accommodate? This is the biggest thing. People want to accommodate a ton of people because they think they'll make more money. And you probably will, right? Because if you have enough square footage, you can have enough beds. My business partner and I call it heads in beds. People are so concerned with throwing a bunch of heads in a bunch of beds. But then they have a table setting and a space set for 4 people and you just want to sleep 14. And it's like, okay, you haven't thought that through. So talk to your design professional about that. How many people are you going to sleep? They're all coming together to spend time together. Where can they all sit down and share a meal and break bread and hang their coats up? Let's say you're in a ski town and you're accommodating ski travelers. Like, where are their skis going to go? Where are their winter coats going to go? Where are their boots going to go? All 14 people.
Yeah.
And think about that experience. So really dial it back into who is your avatar? Who is that guest that you really want to attract because they're the perfect fit for your space? Now put yourself in their shoes and there are 13 other guests that they're asking to come and spend money at your place, and have in your mind's eye go through that experience. But not just the perfect like setting of like the sun shining and all that, but like, no, they spent all this money and actually there's a blizzard and a snowstorm.
Exactly.
Can they still have a great
Yes.
time in your place? Some of these are luxuries that we don't all get when we're starting a short-term rental. But if you can really think to that depth, you're going to have a much better time and a much longer, business for yourself and your family. If you're putting all this effort in, you might as well do it right the first time.
because what is actually shortcoming can be your benefits, because as we talk, like we already know for hotels, this is our branding, how this is how we look alike, and all these brands are same all around the world. It's almost like an industry, you know, cookie cutter. But here we actually selling the unique experience, because each of these Airbnb is something, its own character, like a personality, its own personality, and that should be taken as pros against the like all these
Exactly.
big brands. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I gotta be honest with you too. Is like those are the things that make architecture fun. Like,
Yeah.
Like I remember, like these projects give me life
Mhm.
because when we're designing, affordable housing, or not, I don't even want to go down that path. But like when we're doing something that's very basic and very specific, for like maybe a starter home or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm going. Maybe I'm
No,
going.
I
in the
see what
wrong
you're
direction.
saying.
No,
Like,
it's
you're
it's a
not saying you're not-
customization. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a getting your own tailor, doing the suit just for you.
I suppose the best way to say it is we have the opportunity to be a little more risky,
Mm.
to make that impression, right? It's a little bit more thoughtful.
But also, I like Sarah's approach when she said avatar. You have to go, you have to experience that space. And also, one thing's, I'm recently watching the show called Mentor Pilot, and when he actually going through all these like accidents, and how people like just forgetting this procedure that's becoming annoying. I have to check this, I have to check that, I have to check this light, I have to check that, because you just make a shortcut.
Yes.
You can actually put yourself in a danger, because it may not be sunny day and be rainy day. The person can be already annoyed by flight being delayed, and because I didn't go through this checklist thoroughly and nicely, I may have bad experience, even though my actually rental is amazing, but his day is bad. You know what I'm saying?
Nino, I love how you always reference a TV show on our podcast. I just started watching For All Mankind.
Yeah.
It's really good.
It
We
is.
suggested that to you last time.
Thank you for sharing that
Yeah.
with me last podcast.
Thank you.
But yeah, speaking to experience, I guess one thing that popped in my head that you could probably have the conversation with the design professional on. I mean, we don't always necessarily do it, but even like, again, we have these tools at our fingertips to basically create like a 3D view, right? To help you understand and experience what the space is even before you lift the
Beautiful.
hammer up to take the first swing, right? So, I mean, it's like even that could be part of the initial conversation with the design professional. It's like, can we have some elevational views, some 3D perspective views, right? Like I want to try to get my head wrapped around this
Before I
as much as
invest
possible.
money.
Yeah. So if you're really new to it and you have no idea what you're doing, then ask the architect to spend some additional time, spend a little bit of additional money to get some of these additional items, in front of you so that you can really start to feel what the space is going to be before you even get to that point of, doing the work.
Yeah, because at the design review, we can then sit down and see like, oh, that's a perfect spot for some type of feature wall where
Yep.
we can maybe have a local artist come in or just do something special that's going to be like, this is amazing. I got to take a picture of that and share it.
Or,
Yep.
or Nick always, I don't understand space in my head. Like, I don't know how you guys, like, you tell me 100 square feet. I don't know what that means. Like, I have to be in 100 square
See
feet
it.
for me to understand it. So I very much rely on Nick to help me see, like, okay, Nick, is this going to be, yes, I can take a tape measure out, but if the space doesn't exist yet or are moving walls, like those elevations, like listeners, if you invest in that, like I'm telling you, to get into the short-term rental game is a lot of upfront costs, from your design professional to the contractor to the furniture to all the little bits and pieces that you haven't even thought about yet. So if you're going to get into this, you better be into it for a while. I was, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, so that you can obviously run your numbers, make sure all those make sense. But to put money in the planning phase, I would say is the most important. Invest in elevations, invest in working with your design professional to really understand what that space that you're accommodating for your vision, make sure it makes sense and like it fits. Because putting wallpaper on a wall with a neon sign, you can do that. And your architect could help you like take that actual material and put it on the wall and make sure it's going to fit with all those things. And I'm telling you, investing in that is a no-brainer.
Well, one of the things we do too, I agree 100%. We've started putting furniture and scaled furniture in all of our drawings now because we want to see how it plays out at the end. And I know last year even, we weren't putting like side tables for the bed. And, we put a king size bed in this. Oh, this will fit a king size bed. We get it in the space and we don't have a nightstand, or we just have one nightstand and it's not balanced, or
or your
something's
closet door is hitting the nightstand.
Exactly.
Or the foot of the bed.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Have your
Yeah.
architect help you with the door swing. Like,
Yeah.
should you do a pocket door, or have fun with a barn door? You know what I mean? Like, have the door swing open. What is it going to be like? Let's say let's go back to that 14-person example. What are mornings going to be like for those 14 people
Yeah.
when they want to take showers?
And I think this is where you lean on your design professional, right? Because like you said, Sarah, it's like understanding a space might not be the best for the person that's getting into this. So it's like, great, lean on the design professional who's going to have a better understanding of what that space is, right? And how that space is going to function, and really rely upon them to basically lay everything out appropriately. Because I mean, I can remember there's times where people are like, oh, this is going to be a bedroom. And we're like, really? It's barely going to be a bathroom, let alone a bedroom, so.
I'm glad you kind of brought that up, because Sarah, what's our kind of our new policy for beds to baths? Like, are the ratio from beds to bath?
I mean, to have every bedroom to have a bathroom, especially in short-term rentals, is if you have that luxury. Now, let's say the location that you've got is like next level, lights out. You get to compromise and other things like that. People are willing to compromise because of the location that you're offering, or some sort of amenity. Like, we used to manage a property that has a darn waterfall that in the middle of Ohio. Like, they'll be willing to take some sacrifices there. But if you don't have that, and literally your spot, your place is the destination, a bedroom and a bathroom ensuite is crucial.
Yeah. So I just remember, like, when we first moved to Columbus and we started managing for others, we had a 4-bed, 1-bath.
No.
Oh my God.
No.
Yeah.
No. And I'll tell you, listeners, like, it didn't make money because people would figure it out. They think about that. I don't want, if they're coming to meet their in-laws, like, they don't want to share.
Yeah, or they stay there one time and then
Leave
they
a
give
review.
you a terrible review and they never stay there again. And yeah.
And also for design professionals, it's really good to listen to Sarah, because you're not always going to able to have a space, to accommodate all this stuff. So you have to prioritize.
Yes.
So that's that's one thing that you have to talk to someone who has a lot of experience in Airbnb to get that list of what is more important and what will actually swing the customers your own way, because especially existing spaces are limited.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of our spaces we go into are existing, right? So let's say that exact situation. All right, we have 4 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. So what would the suggested layout be? Are you going to say add 2 bathrooms and take out 1 bedroom so that you have 3 beds, 3 baths, something like that? Is that what the suggestion would be?
We have the luxury now of going to data. So what I would pull up is this. What does a 4-bed, 1-bath make? What does a 3-bed, 2-bath make? What does a 2-2 make?
Great.
And maybe, and depending on the construction costs, but maybe you'll actually make more money with a 2-2
1, 2, 2,
than a 4-1, because also, what is parking like? Like, can you accommodate, let's say there's 4 bedrooms, that means you could potentially have 8 people. Can you have, 4 cars, 6 cars, depending on how people are coming? You have to think about all that, because I will tell you, it will not make money. You will be found out and reviews will happen, and then people stop staying. Or you get people who are like just, 2, 3, 4 people end up staying, and they can't pay the nightly rate that you want to have, because you're in your brain, you want to accommodate 8 people.
It's a hostel. It's no more cute,
Correct.
like a nice,
Right.
Airbnb. You know what I'm saying?
And say we did want to add bathrooms to that 4-bedroom, 1-bath. Sacrificing 1 bedroom might not be enough. So maybe we're now sacrificing part of the entertainment spaces or something else that's going to impact the way the property functions, right? So you need to be thoughtful about everything.
Everything. I want to bring up a new topic too. Nick and I are potentially looking at some land, and so our expertise is in the metro markets, right? And so when it comes to urban or camping, like, I needed to get more educated. So I went to a conference, and they were talking about whether it's RVs or tents or cabins or just a new build in general, how you have to think about being accessible, especially if you have just one property. And so a lot of times we don't think of ourselves as commercial operators, right? You're thinking, oh, I'm just an Airbnb. I'm just a residential. But as the vacation rental market matures, it is in its infancy right now. Yes, vacation rentals have been around for hundreds of years, but the professionalism of the vacation rental industry is becoming huge. And so what do I mean by accessibility? Like ADA standards. You have to be able to accommodate a wide spectrum of traveler, especially if you want a more of a professional setting, several cabins or tents or things of that nature. People in wheelchairs or with different abilities need to be able to access those places. So asking yourself those questions too, the design professional, your city code, and what you need to be able to do so that you are not opening yourself up for liability. And you'll definitely need an architect to help you with that.
Yeah, the duplex that we're opening shortly here and furnishing currently, the lower unit, we did our best to add a lot of accessibility elements. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So there's actually a woman here in Columbus, we're really lucky, who this is what she does. She had an accident back in the day, and she lost the use of her legs, and so she's been in a wheelchair ever since her early 20s. But she's made it her life mission to share with people that she calls it universal design. I don't know if that's
Yeah, it is.
Is that okay? Universally designed is actually, people get this vision in their head where it's like this unattractive approach to design, and it doesn't have to be. And so she's done a really good job of sharing with you, like, if you just move where the outlets are and the light switches are, and lower the countertops and have
Just a little.
it really is just a little, or how beautiful a ramp can be, or how you can take stairs and offer a second way to enter a space, whether it's a ramp that you bring out and put on top of stairs. Like she opened my eyes up to just all these other ways to think about being accessible.
And appliances, like instead of having your oven door swing traditionally down and out, there's
Right.
ovens that open sideways.
Right.
And yeah, it's kind of a lot of things you can't even tell in most cases.
No.
Like
And it's not just people in that are in wheelchairs. It is people that are on the spectrum, like people who, different patterns and sounds and things of that nature affect their stay.
Yep.
And I will tell you that if you can incorporate some of these elements into your rental on the OTAs, on Airbnb and Vrbo, you can check more boxes, which means you're just opening up your marketplace to more people, and you're standing out, because I'll tell you, people are not thinking about this. And so you're leaving out a whole, a huge audience,
Huge audience, because universal design is not you're in wheelchair. Sometimes you just break your leg or injure your ankle, and you're still disabled. But most importantly, if you look at demographics, I mean, who are the demographics that has the most time, probably the most money, are the elderly.
Oh, absolutely.
And they love to travel. They want
They
to
do.
spend this their retirement traveling around.
they spent their
and
whole life working, and they want to make up for it.
And they want to make up for it. They have a money. Now you're pleasing all this new audience into your Airbnb because you're making universal design.
And they want more than just a room. They want to have a kitchen. They want to have a place they can
Exactly.
invite their family over if they're visiting family.
And location of the outlets, heights of the outlets, oven, how they
The
open,
shower access.
and
Yep.
all this fun stuff. I mean, Sarah is just bringing a really, really important point, which is how the commercial architecture is getting a step into the residential. And I believe, you guys, that even code, it's already started recognizing a transient housing, but it's going to and we're seeing that in Columbus, it's just getting more strict and strict, starting from zoning to the building permitting process. You will see that the advice of the good professionalist who has knowledge in Airbnbs is crucial.
Well, and this is what I was going to jump in and say as well. A lot of these places are residential properties, right? It's not commercial properties.
Exactly.
But when you go into there, I mean, you really, again, especially if you're just getting involved in this for the first time, or you're thinking about doing it for the first time, you might not have a good idea of what is needed to be done to that residential property to pull in some of these commercial aspects or some of these accessibility, access, or universal design elements, right? So it's like, again, having some assessment done by a design professional or working with a design professional on those items is going to be hugely beneficial for you because
Oh, yeah.
a residential house is just not designed to that level, to that standard, and then
Exactly.
it's going to create a bad experience for your user if you just push forward and open the door.
Or you have multiple units. Soon as you cross that number of three, you're automatically goodbye residential code. You're in commercial code. So, so that's another thing that you have to be careful. Like especially now, we want to, you purchase the giant house, but you would like to have bigger return on it. I have to like divide that on 4 units. Here
Well,
we go. Now
I'll,
we're in four
I'll
units.
tell you what, Paul, we've been working on a couple of different triplexes, and now they're even getting, it's still considered residential as a
Yeah.
triplex, but they have more restrictions than a
Yes.
duplex or a single family.
They will adjust the code accordingly. Believe me. And zoning because of this upcoming fight between Airbnb and hotels will try to limit the Airbnb in certain neighborhoods. So there is a lot of things that you have to know in advance. You may actually purchase the house in order to have Airbnb, and you hire the architect, or you design by yourself. You build this beautiful house, and guess what? You cannot Airbnb it because zoning won't allow you. So that's where you have to have that in front knowledge before you start spending
Well,
money.
that more reason why universal design is super important because now you can still cater to a large number of
Yes,
people,
audiences.
whether it's
Yeah,
midterm, long term, or whatever.
exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's a great, I'm just going to put you guys on the spot. You should create on your website some sort of download that helps someone who might want to get into short-term rentals or
Yeah.
hospitality, what a universal design things they should think about. I think that
Oh,
would
yeah.
be great.
I think we can get that put together. We'll do a one sheet on universal design. We'll have that in the link. Danny will help me with that.
Yeah, it's actually, I think entire term was coined by the one of the architect. I'm guessing it's from California, who from himself suffered from polio,
Oh, wow.
and that's how he actually start propagating this universal design. You always learn on yourself.
Right.
Like that's when you start thinking, no, I cannot bend to like plug my like a phone or charge it. I need to be a little bit higher. So that's how entire like a universal design philosophy started.
Love that.
I actually took you, Nino, into our duplex the other day. I'm curious, did you notice like our tile selection and how we were very specific on
Yep.
what we chose? And
Mhm.
what are your thoughts on that?
No, first I think what is important, and that's what people. It's not just a visual, and that's what Sarah mentioned just like a second ago. It's a visual. It's a hearing, and it's touching. Texture is really important because you also have a people with I won't say that the people that have problem with the vision, but they have like problems like they cannot really perceive the space the way or like the intensity of the light can actually disturb them and everything. But I like the fact that you actually treating the spaces, especially one I love it, I'm gonna mention it, I love the beach property because has a lot of character into it, a lot of materiality that gives you, it still looks modern, still looks like a slick, I say slick, but the nice, rich materials, sometimes competing with each other in the right moment, right like that first impression. Because sometimes design is like a sitting in a theater and watching the good play.
Mm.
Needs to have like a beginning, needs to have that like a, like a storytelling. It has to have that like a beginning, then has like wow effect, and then it has to have nice ends or dramatic end. It depends what you're trying to achieve. So every design is some kind of storytelling, and that's what I like about your design because, especially in the beach, the way when I'm entering the house now, there is that camera, but next to that camera there is actually modern, sophisticated technology. There is a gas lantern that kind of bridge the like a gap between different generations. You know what I'm saying? The youngster, there is a gas lantern. Elderly, there is this new piece of technology. That's your reality. You can like it or not, but that's how it is. And I like that in that properties, how you guys merging this together.
Well, it's something for everyone, right?
Exactly for everyone, but also you did not lose the original character of the property. And that's another important thing. In that really packed neighborhood, you still have your backyard nicely fenced. They capture that atmosphere of that neighborhood. So yeah,
Yeah,
and that like a brick entrance that your father helped build. It is beautiful how it ties up into the. I can talk to you for hours.
but going back to experience, right? So if you go into some property that you have, you don't want to go in and completely wipe the slate clean and
No.
get rid of all that character.
You're gonna
take
lose the
away from
character.
property. So it's like,
Exactly.
again, working with whoever, it's like obviously Nick and Sarah, when they were doing beach, they've had plenty of experience and they were really thoughtful about what they were doing. But again, it's like you don't want to completely get rid of everything because you lose the balance, you lose the nod to history, you lose the character, right? If you just wipe everything away and try to do everything with this modern touch.
But material selection in both properties that I saw the other day was phenomenal.
And that just happens to be something we can help our clients with as
Oh
well.
my God. Light fixtures. I was blown away.
Yeah, I would say the light fixtures are pretty, yeah.
I will say real quick too, like everything we've been talking about today, maybe you're not like, no, I don't want to be involved in short-term rentals, right? Or in Airbnbs. But all of it also, I know a lot of us will have a parent maybe that lives on property or in a carriage house or an additional dwelling unit. And so all of those things you can implement into your own home.
Still matter.
It still matters. Maybe you want to age in your old home, so now you don't need those things. But someday you might. Potentially you could have a child who has special needs. So I think, and this whole conversation really is about being thoughtful about all types of humans, all types of abilities, and how can you incorporate, maybe you can't do everything, but really be thoughtful about how your family dynamic is going to change, how something might happen that you didn't even think about. But if you're designing your forever home or a for a while home, you might want to be extra thoughtful about all of those things.
Do you sometimes shoot for like a target audience? For example, if your Airbnb is close to the hospital or university, or do you then in that case start targeting like the specific audience?
1,000%. That is a big reason why we made the duplex accessible on the first floor, because we are a stone's throw from Nationwide Children's Hospital. And so I thought, there's got to be families who have to unfortunately stay near the hospital for long periods of time.
Yeah.
Maybe their kiddo has special needs.
Yep.
I don't know what those needs might be, but how great would it be? Like maybe they have to go in for treatment. Maybe they need to be nearby for a while, or the nurses or the medical professionals need a place to stay nearby. So what are they going to care about? Maybe we can accommodate them in the upstairs unit. So we have rentals in downtown Columbus, and so we get a lot of business travelers. What do they care about?
Exactly.
And what don't they care about? So yes, you have to. Now you might have a guest who comes who's neither of those things, and they still chose your place, and they're a great guest, and so great. But you really have to focus on who are you talking to. That will help you really make your initial question is like, how can we maximize cash flow? I don't care what industry you're in. You need to talk to one person at first. Talk to one person. Get super, instead of like wide with your net, you need to go narrow. Eventually you can widen your net. But if you can figure out how to, because there's a lot of people in this world. So if you can go really niche, they say the riches are in the niches, and they say that for a reason. So that's what, and it also makes it easier for you, as there are so many different design elements you can do and implement. But if you can focus on, name that person, maybe it's Susie who has the child who is on the spectrum. Design the place for Susie and her child, and what decisions would you make, and then go from there.
Especially now when you have access to information so easily,
Right.
And one thing that you mentioned, and especially for our customers, maybe people that would like to jump to Airbnb and now listen to our podcast, so there's so many things to think about. Maybe I'm gonna sway away from it. You mentioned one important thing, which is constant education. Can you say more about that? How are you educating yourself? I know you have multiple Airbnbs, but trends in this crazy market are constantly swinging, changing, and people's getting more spoiled, of course.
Yes.
They're always pushing for more. So how are you educating yourself?
This actually might be a good time for you to mention your company. Thanks for visiting and what you do.
Yeah. So it's funny because I am multi passionate. And so I used to be an actor. I mentioned that. And now I'm all in on short-term rentals and becoming an expert in that world, because between being an actor and where I am now, I was doing staging, and Nick and I were flipping houses, and we were managing other people's flips, and we were handy people for a while, installing people's baseboards for them, like in the middle of New York City. Like,
That's another life.
we had some like personality situations we had to figure out. And what I learned is that I wasn't becoming an expert in any of those fields. And it was frustrating because I was letting our clients down one way or another. And so deciding on being in this, again, I was riches in my niches, but now even like you said, like my experience is my perspective, but I will be a better educator if I can get other people's perspective who are also experts in my field. So reading other people's books, listening to other people's podcasts. We have our own podcast. It's called Thanks for Visiting. And we interview hosts, so other people who do what we do. We interview people who are even niched down even further. Maybe they're experts in pricing for short-term rentals, experts in collecting emails for short-term rentals and building your email list. And hearing their stories and being a student all the time, right? Knowing that I don't know everything is the best way to just strengthen my knowledge and my perspective. This perspective is reality, but if I'm going to be helping other people, I need to be able to put different hats on and think of different, okay, but if I'm in this perspective or think about it from this way, they may not care about that. So the more you can just listen and soak in and get really narrow on your focus in that season of your life, I think it's going to help you.
Yeah. And I can't even tell you, like, I do this. It's so funny. The amount of things I learned about safety over the last year and a half, 2 years, we're now incorporating those details into all of our rentals and even our drawings that we do for our clients.
Be a student all the time.
All the time.
All the time. That's because the moment we left the college, that doesn't mean that we have to study anymore. We have to study.
You're just getting
Especially
started.
in today's world when information is there, just take advantage of the fact that information are there. Can you imagine just like 50 years ago, in order to obtain no internet, no podcast, no, you know what I'm saying? You have to go to the book and you really have to be...
What's a book?
Yeah. Now you have audiobooks, exactly. Yeah. But like you have information area, just don't read the titles. Just like get into it and focus and be ready to learn.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, it brings it right back to, like you said, relying on others and kind of seeking advice from others. And you're just always pushing that continuous kind of improvement mindset, right? By not just looking to yourself and looking to what you think, but seeking out others and seeking out others' opinions and thoughts and advice and so forth and so forth.
Consult your team.
Yeah.
So like, I mean,
you have to have a team around you and you have to consult with them.
I still encourage our clients to have their contractors come with us to the design review because I want their input, their perspective.
Yep.
You know, we
may design it, but we're not building it. So
yeah.
You're absolutely right.
I see, especially today in the industry, I'm not only like working on residential, but in different fields. I seeing a lot, especially if subject is more complicated, such as medical field. I see a lot design build contracts being written today than the traditional design bid build. So yeah, early involvement of the contractor, especially if you have trustworthy contractor, which is another subject we can talk about it.
We will.
Yeah, so it's crucial.
Yeah,
having a team.
Yeah,
it's crucial.
Even like a real estate agent, right? If you have a real estate agent that's on board, maybe your first thought is to do Airbnb, and that's the direction you go. But again, if you have more of a universal design and more thoughtful implementation of what you're doing, right? Then maybe after a certain period of time, you can get out of the Airbnb and sell it and really maximize the value of your property you've done all that thoughtful stuff up front with your design team.
Or you're buying property in a city that you don't know that well. You know what I'm saying? You need someone who has a local knowledge and say like, hey, fellow, you have really big traffic of the like students here, or you have like you have a hospital nearby, or you have just business people. They're just like looking for something completely different. So yeah.
I think I have one final question for you, Sarah. If this is to somebody who's already in the short-term rental space or furnished rental space, but they want to just kind of tighten that up, make that freshen that listing, make it a little bit better, increase that cash flow. Any advice there?
Yes. 2 things. Stay in it yourself. Actually, my business partner and I own a townhome together. And we've been wanting to make these things like tighten them. I mean, this is what I do full time, everyone. And I can't even have enough time to go to my own townhome. But we're going to spend the night, 2 nights, and we're going to work there during the day because that's who our avatar is. And we're going to stay there overnight and get some extra deep cleaning done ourselves. It's just good as the owner to get involved and to get your hands dirty. Then also we call it your truth-telling friend. You all have someone in your life who loves telling you the truth.
Wait, is that me for you guys?
Yes.
Who has no filter. They don't like anything. Like they want to tell you what you've missed. So invite that person to stay and tell them, find everything that annoys you. And I want you to go hog wild. Write it down. I want you to make food in the oven. I want you to use the microwave. I want you to take a shower. Use everything.
Nino, I'm happy to stay at your first short-term rental.
And when you get the results back,
Exactly.
when you get the results back, take it with a grain of salt, but also open your mind up. I one time got, this still haunts me. We got a 3-star review, 3 stars. And the reason was
I remember.
because we didn't have Kleenex throughout the home.
That's it. Because, listen, I come from humble backgrounds, apparently.
We use toilet paper.
I use toilet paper.
Yeah.
So I didn't even think about it, and I used to work in hotels, and in hotels there was always tissue on a side table or a coffee table, and I just forgot. I didn't think about it, and I instead of having someone leave me a 3-star review, which I can't remove because that again perception's reality. Her perception's reality. Like how dare I not have Kleenex? So that is why it is important to have someone who is ready to rip you apart. And if there's an easy fix, like a box of Kleenex or tissue paper that you can put out, do it.
And I like the fact when you said it's me and my friend, we're going to do the first cleaning. So you're actually switching your head that you mentioned earlier, getting someone else's shoes and trying to get a new role that you keep forgetting about and just see how this space function from different roles. Not just owner and user group, but the
Your
cleaning
team. How many times has a cleaner probably told me, hey, Sarah, this vacuum isn't working well. And in my brain, I'm like, oh, that sucks. I should do something about that. But I'm not cleaning it. So I'm not getting frustrated every time. And so when we've done this before, one time we had to let go of a cleaner. We were in the middle of hiring a new set. So Nick, let's go. We got to clean some of our rentals. Some of the stuff was not helpful. It was very frustrating, some of the tools. So
Yeah. Well, with all that said, Sarah, if someone wants to learn more about short-term rental education and or just more about you in general, where can they find you?
Head on over to thanksforvisiting.com. That's it.
All right. Well, I had fun today.
I learned a lot actually today.
Good.
A lot.
Well, that's the whole point, just to educate you guys.
Yeah.
It's a team effort.
Yeah. So we have to have Sarah more often, I will say. It's just different perspective that we as a designer keep forgetting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, the operational side of things, right? Yeah, it's definitely important, but it's definitely something that gets slipped in your, in your mind.
Janitor closet.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us, Sarah. And that wraps up episode number 3.
This has been the ArcFluence Podcast. Please subscribe on the platform of your choice and leave us a review. We'd love to hear from you. As always, you can get more information and additional content on arcfluence.com. I'm Paul Fatkins.
I'm Nick Karakaian, and we'll see you next time.